Welcome, horror fam, to HHN365, a Halloween Horror Nights podcast. My name is Mike, and as always, I'm here with my co-host Duff. How's it going, Duff?
Hey, how's it going, Mike?
It's going okay. It's going okay. We also have Nico, our producer, on the line, as always. How's it going, Nico?
I'm still stuck inside. How are you doing?
Same here, same here. On this episode, we'll be dissecting the house Killer Klowns from Outer Space from HHN29 with a very special guest with us. But First, Duff, give us a recap of the final few rounds of the Copa del Quarantine.
Yeah, so as you guys probably know, the Copa del Quarantine has come to an end. We have crowned a champion, and I might as well start with that. Universal Monsters defeated the second seed Graveyard Games as an 8 seed to win it all. Guys, it was only separated by 3 votes.
Yeah, it was very close.
It's a good thing I voted.
Right? Look at you. Ruin it for us.
What?
You may notice that there were 2 HHN29 houses in the final, and yeah, that happened. So we were talking last time about how recency is going to play a factor, and played a very, very large part in how this tournament went down. So let's just talk about a few interesting things that happened to lead us up to that final. We had a matchup that was separated by 1 single vote, and that was Ghost Town as a 5th seed, edging out Halloween as a 4 seed.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, just 1
buzzer
single
beater
vote.
Yeah.
Ghost Town, the Curse of Lightning Gulch, would go on to lose to Universal Monsters on their path to the championship. A couple other good matchups. We had Jack Presents taking on Graveyard Games in the semifinals. That was separated by only it was like 5 to 7 votes. I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but it was a really close matchup.
Very close.
Slaughter Cinema put up a good fight against Graveyard Games as well. But yeah, there were some really fun matchups. There were some upsetting upsets. The Shining beating Dead Exposure by a wide margin made me want to cancel the tournament on the spot, but I didn't. I let it ride. It's okay.
Poltergeist beat Scarecrow.
Poltergeist beat Scarecrow. That was only by like 4 votes, I believe, 4 to 6 votes. Very close as well. Otherwise, we mainly did have close ones, but they were, like 15 to 20 votes between them. But that kind of breaks down the one where like single digit votes, especially that 1 vote one between Ghost Town and Halloween, is just insane. And thank you for that, because we were dreading what we would do during the ties. So
yeah, we didn't have a tiebreaker planned out. We'll definitely have to have one for the next time we do this. But
yeah, so I guess we should talk about that. We do plan on doing it again. It'll be after the next Horror Nights, so we have a new batch of houses. And basically what we're going to do is retire the winner of each one into like the Hall of Fame. So Universal Monsters, you will not see in our tournaments again. They have won, and they are a champion forever, and that's how it's going to be.
Is there any possibility that we can do a Crappa del Quarantine and do the worst houses of Horror Nights?
I don't hate that. But I feel like we're going to get a lot of flame for including some houses that we'll have to include.
Oh, but isn't that what Twitter's for? And Twitter and Instagram's for flaming?
I mean, yes, we're already getting it right now. So
also, the name Crappa del Quarantine is such a great name for that I just came up with. So
I feel like the problem is, Nico, I feel like there are a lot of people who are just skimming Twitter. There'll be some confusion in exactly what we're voting for. So I feel like a lot of people will be voting for their favorite when they they think they're voting for their favorite when they're actually voting for.
I see.
So I feel like that would require a lot of putting it out there that no, you are voting for your least favorite house of all time.
Oh yeah, I mean you could definitely do that. Well, if you want to have a Crappa del Quarantine, tweet at us and see if we can get that done for you.
I'm not against it. I just think
I don't hate it.
I don't get to answer all the Instagram DMs and Twitter DMs on where like, why is Lunatic's Playground your winner? Like the house was terrible.
Well, that's their fault for not paying attention. See,
our DMs are already kind of full from people being upset about certain things that won, and we had no say in it. We didn't pick this.
Right? It was all a fan vote. People were very upset about the bracket in general when the bracket was built by fan votes. We did not create the bracket in any way. It was all we created. The groupings we didn't even create. It was literally
it was by year. We literally did almost nothing.
So you're saying democracy has failed us again?
Yes.
Yes. But I did notice that after we posted the championship graphic for Universal Monsters, there were people who had not seen this before and were like, "Oh, I missed it." And I noticed a lot of people who had seen it were like, "Why did you pick this? Are you crazy? It was okay, but best of all time." I mean, I didn't pick it. Actually, I voted against it personally.
All we did was the seeding.
Yeah,
and even then,
we seeded it based off how you guys voted. The only thing we did is have a vote like you guys. I voted still.
Yeah.
And I lost in the finals with my vote. So, yeah.
All right. Well, that's the wrap up of the Copa del Quarantine. Duff and Nico, is there any news or rumors out there?
Well, we got some big City Walk news coming our way. Announced today, City Walk will open on a limited basis with social distancing definitely being at the forefront of everyone's mind. And face covering will be required, thank goodness, here. That's for all guests and all team members. Valet parking is not available. Self-parking is complimentary. So there may not even be people at the booths. They might just push you right through.
Yeah, probably.
The Universal Studios store will be open, so actual Universal team members will be working, not the third-party team members. And we got many stores that says that they're going to be open here. I'm definitely so Auntie Anne's Pretzels, Bubblegum Shrimp Company, Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville, which is only going to be patio and the Lone Palm. So over there by the Hemisphere Dancer, you'll be able to get a drink there. Red Oven Pizza Bakery, it says mobile ordering available, and Voodoo Donut says mobile ordering available. So that'll probably be pick up and go there. But one really interesting one on here is Hollywood Drive-In Golf.
Yeah.
Which, if we think about it, that's a bit of a surprise to me because it's community handles that we're going to be handing off. But it's also a lot easier to restrict the amount of clubs you hand out and to sanitize them real quick. So I assume that's going to be what they're going to do. They're going to be sanitizing the crap out of those grips.
Right.
And clubs. But I'm still very surprised that the Universal store's open, Hollywood Drive-In and Golf, and just the retail portion of the Hart and Huntington Tattoo Company will be there. We'll probably have a long while till we have probably the frozen yogurt place open, and probably some of the other places.
Cowfish,
Cowfish, and also the Cinemark is also closed.
Yep.
And Blue.
So I personally will not be partaking. Do either of you plan on taking a visit?
No, probably not.
Ooh, Voodoo Donut though. Mobile order on my way home from work.
Tempting.
It's very tempting. Very tempting.
You have to walk all the way in there?
I've done it before for Father's Day. So I've done it before. I might do it again, but there's no valet, so I might not because I'm too bougie for that.
I think I can speak on HHN365 as a whole, where I say if you choose to go, we will not judge. We don't mind as long as you please follow the safety protocols that are there for everyone's safety and not just yours. Right. Remember that.
If you are sick,
the mask isn't just for you.
Home.
It's for everyone else.
Yes, absolutely.
So
wear your mask.
Follow the rules. If you go, enjoy yourself, get some good food. Well, there's not many good food options available right now. Get some mediocre food and, enjoy some fresh air. Or stay home like I think me and Mike are definitely doing. And depending on some voodoo action, Nico as well.
Also, one very important thing. Temperature check required. All guests and team members. Temperature check required of 104 degrees. That is the first one to say that in the Orlando area.
Oh wow! So at the security gate,
it doesn't say where, but it says we ask that all guests and team members comply with the following, and it's only going to be from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. every night.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's really interesting. That's
definitely a good opportunity for testing that and seeing how that works operationally.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what they're trying to do there.
Absolutely. So if you want to see your favorite blogger or vlogger, go to City Walk May 14th, baby. Yeah. You'll see them all there.
And if you are a vlogger or blogger and I see you there without a mask, we will flame you on our show.
Yes, you will be flamed if you do not have a mask.
Right.
Because that is irresponsible.
I think something that I see people talk about when people say that is, well, what if I just need to breathe and stand off to the side? Then I don't think people care. If you need to go stand off by the water and pull it down, get some fresh air to pull it down for a second, that's fine.
Yeah, and if you're pulling it down
when you're just walking around without your mask, that's a problem.
Yeah, I know as a vlogger and blogger, you want HHN 30 to happen as much as we do. If you go and start blogging and walking around without a mask, you are hindering that. Mm-hmm. So we will definitely flame you on Twitter. So
yeah, sure. Don't do that. Every time you go to these parks and break any of the rules, once they start opening, they are less likely to open further things up.
Right.
If people can't follow the rules, they have no reason to keep letting us in. Period. You know, they could close the parks again if it's deemed necessary, and 2, giving us more to enjoy.
Right.
And if you think you're too cool to wear a mask, just go ask all the guys who had to suffer through depths of fear this season wearing those masks, and then say that to them and see what they say to you. So wear your dang masks, folks.
Give them a neck massage.
Yeah, from 6 feet away. Get one of those arm neck massages.
All right. Oh, I know we have some construction photos from both coasts too, Duff.
Yeah. So the ones on our coast we've mentioned before were the ones in the sprung tents, where you can see active construction from trucks and supplies being brought into the tents. There's a little bit you could see a Men in Black, but we've already seen that actively happening. So that's not really new. But in Hollywood, we have our first construction photos, period. It looks like they have a good portion of a maze constructed underneath tarp in the Waterworld location. I personally don't have any guesses to what it could be. I don't know. Is there anything you saw in there, Mike?
No, it's. I think it's way too hard to tell. I know there are a lot of rumors and speculation, but we're not going to necessarily speak to any of that.
Mm. Yeah, but I mean, it's good to see that they started construction because they were probably in more jeopardy of not hosting the event than we were in Orlando.
Right.
I mean, that's just in California, the restrictions have been heavier. They haven't really been eased yet for the most part. And the parks look like they're on a slower timeline to open.
Right. Yeah, their timeline's a lot slower. Looking like
the fact that they have started construction now, in the midst of all this, makes you think they're actually going to try to make this happen. That they're actually optimistic they'll put it on.
All right, let's get to the main segment of the show. We are actually going to have another house dissection today. It's going to be Killer Klowns from Outer Space. We actually going to have 2 guests with us to go over this. The first guest you've actually heard on the show before, probably the most wholesome thing that's ever been on our show. His voicemail about this particular house, that would be at Hung Upon Theme Parks. Jonathan, how's it going, Jonathan?
It's going good. Thank you guys for having me.
Yo, thank you for being on the show. I know how passionate you are about Killer Klowns.
Yes, I absolutely adore this house, and I can't wait to talk about it.
We can't either. Then also, we have a very special treat. I teased it on the last episode. To go over this house, we decided to go as big as we could. That would be media composer. You might know him as a composer of a little movie called Killer Klowns from Outer Space. That would be John Massari. How's it going, John?
Woo. It is going very well, and thank you for having me. It's indeed a great honor to be here.
No, thank you so much. The honor is all ours. I've always been really impressed how accessible you make yourself to the horror community and now the HHN and theme park community in general. From the beginning, did you decide to have an open dialogue with your fans, or did that just kind of evolve over time?
Well, you know what? It did evolve over time. It happened. It all started back in 2015, years ago.
Ooh.
Back when there was no TikTok.
That's true.
So what happened is that I was at the 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica, California, enjoying a coffee out on the promenade, and I got a call from a number that looked very familiar. It happened to be the Kyoto Brothers studio, and it was one of their producers, and they said, "Hi, do you want to come to the thing this weekend?" I go, "That sounds incredible. What thing?" "Oh, you see, what we're gonna meet up with fans, and you can bring stuff to sell and sign." I go, "You know what? You're really losing me. Okay, you having a garage sale? What's going on?" And so basically, it took about 15 minutes for her to finally realize I didn't know what the hell she was talking about, which was Monster Palooza, which is a pretty big convention out here.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it as something else years ago. So I had been completely out of the whole loop all of these years. I've been basically concentrating on doing commercials, working in television, and also doing other movies and stuff like that. Had not had a clue that there was a fan base that the Kyoto Brothers would basically go on tour to various conventions, selling merchandise and stuff like that. And so I was at the table with Suzanne Snyder and the Kyoto Brothers, and the Dickies played one of the evenings after the convention was over. Really, an awesome experience. And I realized, wow, there are all these people that know more about my music and this movie than I do. I had to reacquaint myself with it. I mean, Killer Klowns has always had a very special place in my heart. I did not realize, I knew there was a fandom, and I knew people watched it on cable because I get, statements and things like that. I had no idea that people had tattoos of scenes from the movie, and I met people for the very first time that when they found out who I was, they were just really happy to meet me. So I figured, all these years they've been so loyal to the film. The least I could do is be, very loyal to them in return, because ever since I was a little kid, my purpose for making music is to create an experience for myself and to share with others. And the fact that they have connected that much with not only the movie but the music that I created with, I feel like I've all of a sudden over the past few years inherited a bunch of nieces and nephews and friends that understand this movie and appreciate it. And it was one of the things that inspired me to put on the live to film concert we did for the 30th anniversary. We had a sellout. We had a 1,000-seat theater that I found out later I should have gotten a 3,000-seat theater because we basically filled it to the rafters. We were only licensed from MGM to do one performance, and we could have very easily sold out a matinee and had an additional show. This was 2018. As a matter of fact, it was May. It's coming up. Let me see. What's the date here? It's the 7th. Okay, it was the 19th of May in 2018. And it was just, you can find a lot of I have it archived on video, but I can't really show any of it. But you'll see fans that were there that took video off their cell phones. It was quite an evening. And so one of the things I said after the concert, I made an announcement. Oh, by the way, the Kyoto Brothers were there. Peter Lacossi was there. He was one of the Terenzi brothers. Both Suzanne Snyder and Grant Kramer were there. we had a video of Michael Siegel, who was the other Terenzi brother. He was staying at the time. He did a video shout out with us. And after the concert was over, everyone was like hanging on every word because they were expecting a big, huge announcement. And one of my producers said, you should just go out and say you're going to be doing a sequel. It'll be out in 2 years. And I go, I cannot do that. He says, why? Because MGM executives are in the audience and they're not going to like that. Just because you want it and I want it doesn't mean that is how it's going to happen. It's going to happen on their terms. So, there was a lot of, it was interesting because when I came up with the concept of doing a live concert with a whole show, I mean, I wanted to do a whole day event where we had started at 12 noon, where we had like a circus on the roof, because this particular theater had a rooftop venue, and it has had 3 levels. We were going to do a recreation skit of most of the movie, but we only ended up doing one, and I got a slap on the back of my wrist for that. Says, listen, no, it's going to be this. You have to do it this way. I go, okay. So we had to cancel certain things. Okay, we'll rework the show, and but anyways, afterwards, I made an announcement to people. I said the reason why we are here is because of all of you. If it wasn't for you, these are the fans in the audience, we wouldn't be here with this concert. We wouldn't be celebrating this. You all made this happen, and over the years, just like the names of all the clowns that Funko Pop are releasing, those names came from the fans. I mean, in the original script, the clowns really didn't have names. They just had personalities that basically evolved. And I think there's personalities that people, especially Shorty, people identify so much with Shorty. I think
absolutely.
That's one of the clowns that you see people that will dress like. And, I'm sure like a qualified psychologist could probably analyze that. And I will give you my armchair psychologist analysis of it. Shorty represents a disenfranchised person that, maybe feels that they've been passed over or looked over, and they've been picked on one too many times, and they've been put in a corner, and they're going to come out swinging. And, that's their hero. That's so to speak. That's probably one way of looking at it. And by the way, Shorty could be a female clown or a young girl clown. We don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But still, it's don't mess with Shorty. Shorty may be small and unassuming, but Shorty can pack a punch when the time comes. So
definitely.
So anyways, you asked me a simple question, and I know it's gone into this long diatribe, but basically, I felt that I was kind of leaving. There was a whole audience of people that appreciated a certain aspect of the film, which was the music, that I wasn't able to communicate with them because I actually kind of didn't know they were there, and so I'm kind of making up for lost time, so to speak. I mean, I wish I discovered this much sooner.
Mm-hmm.
But had I not gotten that call, I don't know if I would have put on this concert, to be quite honest with you.
Wow. So kind of like a massive change happened for the entire Killer Klowns community, all from one call.
Yeah. Well, maybe. I mean, with respect to me coming out and communicating with people about the music, yeah, I guess so. Yeah. It was. I was really unaware of it. I mean, maybe I would have found out in another way, but I think that particular convention, it was like the 25th anniversary, and it was at that time I thought, it would be really cool to put on a concert for the 30th. I was trying to put it on in a couple of years, and I working with really incredible professionals. I realized that no, something like this takes a while to plan out, and if you're going to do everything by the book, and have it done right, and which was what we did. because I was also thinking of doing a live concert based on another project I did, and the contractor, his name was Noah Gladstone, who if you guys should be familiar with him, he will be the contractor for all the musicians for performances like when Riot Games does a huge gaming event, like at a big arena, and there'll be like a massive orchestra. He's the one that's going to contract that. So he was my contractor for this concert, and practically everyone that played in my orchestra had played on the last Star Wars movie. They were just high level people, and because if it was going to be done at all, it's got to be done right. And all the guys that did all the technical stuff, that was Alex Levy, that he prepared because when orchestrating the music is one thing, and performing it like a concert is one thing. Having musicians perform in synchronization with the film, total different ball game. There's like a whole crew of people that make that happen. So that was Alex Levy, and he's a music editor and assistant, not assistant, I shouldn't say assistant. He's like music producer for Michael Giacchino. So, and he does tons of live performances. Like, I think he helped set up like the whole Harry Potter thing. He has a hand in, if not the Harry Potter, the performances like that, big venues. And so he had that all set up so that when I'm looking at my score, the written score, and there's a little screen next to me that gives me like these pops and clicks. No, I should say pops and click. Pops and streamers. And a pop is like a flash of light that will signal when the next piece of music come in. There'll be like an update, next cue in 48 seconds and stuff like that. That will, and the orchestra also sees this too. They go, there's going to be 48. You got a minute and a half break to the next piece of music, so they can put their music, get the right music together, and all that was just. It was just. I felt like I was stacking the cards in my favor, because when we had our rehearsal, the very, very first rehearsal, I told the orchestra, listen, let's go to this particular cue. If we can get through this cue, the rest of the movie is a piece of cake. It was like one of the tougher, longer cues that goes on for like 7 minutes, right? And it's like they just blasted through it like they played it before. And I thought to myself, oh, wait a minute, hold on a second. They had their parts. All the musicians had their parts in a PDF that plays. They go to a site where the music copyist provides the music part for, like, let's say the flautist could like look at their part, hear the MP3 of the synth demo, and like play along just to familiarize themselves with the thing. So most of the orchestra had done that. They'd gone through and fingered through and like made little notes to themselves and what have you. And they just like blasted through it. Now, here's what's really funny is that I kept getting calls before the first rehearsal, like probably 2 calls a day for 3 days from Leonard Phillips. He's the founder and leader of the Dickies, trying to like visualize how this is going to work, And I says, it's very simple. We haven't done anything to your song. We're going to play along with you. You don't have to change keys. You don't have to move faster. I've already talked to the drummer. That was Adam Gomez. I'm going to give you a certain kind of count, and he's going to count you in, and you just play your song. There's nothing else you do. We'll play along with you. And the first time I have video some of the first time they went through it and played it. It was just so much fun. It was like they had been playing it. The orchestra and the band had been playing it for years, And the band really liked the Dickies. They like all the members of the Dickies are consummate musicians, and they're also wonderful people. So everyone was getting along well. I couldn't have been a better situation. I remember I had producers that would work the house, make sure that people were in the right place. I said, listen, all I want to do is show up and conduct the orchestra. I don't want to have to worry about this. There's all these other details. I don't want to have to worry about that. Don't be asking me, what color drapes I want, just I need to show up, and I was so lucky. That's what I got.
Sounds like an amazing experience.
Yeah, the Sabrina Hutchison, she's a PR person, and she also produces shows. She ran all of that. She made all that happen. Everything like butter. The only thing, if I had any regrets about that night, is that I didn't go out into the audience after the concert soon enough.
Oh yeah.
Backstage after everything was closed, and I got accosted by like 4 or 5 of my friends that are, in the business, and they were all just like, "Okay, when are you going to do this again?" I don't know, but we were having a lot of fun, and my kids came backstage, and so we had a little mini party. But I understand that for like an hour, people were out front, and they had to be ushered out because they had to close down the theater after 2 hours. So anyway, so that was it. So you asking about the fans. So, when I found out the fan, between the time I discovered the fans and to the time I did the concert, and then right after that, later in 2018 was the Scare Zone. And I thought I just got to go to that. Mm-hmm. After seeing the YouTube videos of the Scare Zone at Universal Orlando, I'm going, geez, they're not only playing the music from the original score, they're playing my new score. I gotta go down there. I just wanted to go down there to hang out, to experience it. I didn't, and I met so many wonderful, incredible people that I'm friends with, and it's been absolutely wonderful. It's one of the most fun things in my career. People ask me, what's the most fun career? Well, rediscovering the Killer Klowns from Outer Space and all the people that love it is one of the most fun parts of my career.
And then you were saying that you didn't actually decide to go check out the Scare Zone until you had already watched YouTube videos of that. So did you not have any kind of creative process in how they use the music?
Oh, no, none of that. No, I didn't have anything to do with that, because you have to understand that the doing the movie, I was hired on as a composer. It's not like I created music that they licensed from me. I created music for a product.
Right.
So, it was originally with a company called Transworld Entertainment, and it went to a bunch of different companies. It was owned by Universal for the longest time. And Universal, I believe, I don't know how it worked, but it went from Universal to MGM around 1999. And basically what it is, they acquire the rights through the people who own the rights to the music. I mean, I have rights to the soundtrack, the master use rights. Excuse me. I have master rights used for my reimagined soundtrack. Mm-hmm. But I still, if I want to use it in a film, I have to get permission from all the powers that be, the publishing aspect of that property. But I don't have to buy my own master recording because it's my master. But the content that's on that master recording also has an interest with another party. So they dealt with all that, how they were going to use it and all that. And that was under Michael Aiello originally, and so was the house the year after. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have any say so in it, and I basically discovered it kind of by accident. In addition, even the Killer Brothers didn't know anything about it.
Really?
So the Killer Brothers says, we're just going to go out there for the opening night, and I went about a week later because I was working on some project. I think it went 2 weeks later, and I just had a complete blast. I just wanted to go there to see it. I didn't want to have anything stop because I was there. The same thing with the Killer Brothers; they just wanted to be part of it, and so that was so much fun. That was so much fun to do that.
It sounds really fun. It sounds like it was a blast.
Yeah, it was. I mean, if you see all that video, there's so much video. I mean, there's one video of the of the Scare Zone, it has millions of views.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It was such an amazing Scare Zone.
Yeah. Because I think my impression of the Scare Zone when I went there the first time, we had to go through a few Scare Zones before we got to Killer Klowns, and I thought, oh, this is just like people. It's like they pass through it. You like look at it, and it scares you or anything, and you usher yourself off. My theory, the Scare Zone, was to scare people into not standing still so that they would go inside a restaurant or inside a gift shop. I got to get out of here. I got to get away from here. It's too scary, and go in and buy something. That was my first impression. But when I went to the Killer Clown Scare Zone, people bought their food and hung out at the Scare Zone. It was like a party. Some people said, oh, we'll just come here and hang out for an hour. I met a couple that they brought their daughter there because their daughter just loved seeing the clowns and the lights and dancing. You know, it was like, and they live in the area. And I guess they have a year pass or something like that. And so, yeah, all I wanted to do was experience it. And I got to meet all the creatives. That was really awesome. Blake Braswell and Michael Aiello, and a variety of different groups that hang out there every night. So it was really awesome just to sit there and hang out with everyone. And then we had a meetup afterwards. I think we had like 2 meetups. There was a meetup at Spooky
Empire.
Yeah, Spooky Empire. I had a meetup there. A bunch of people said, "Are you going to be at Spooky?" Yeah, I'll go to Spooky Empire. And so I had a meet and greet, unofficial meet and greet. Just like people. I said, "I'm going to be there. If you're there, come up, say hi to me." And I met a bunch of people. And then I had an organized meet and greet at a Starbucks. We had a bunch of people just hanging around and talking. Kind of like a family coffee sort of thing. So that's how that all.
And then before we get further into Killer Klowns' impact on Horror Nights, I'm going to bring it back to the film a little bit. And I'm going to preface this by saying this isn't me just trying to get on your good side. But as far as like campy horror films go, Killer Klowns is probably my favorite ever. Did you have any kind of relationship with like horror or campy films growing up?
That's a very good question. Yeah, campy films. I love campy films because before I saw Killer Klowns from Outer Space, I'd seen, I don't know if you call it campy. Maybe it is campy. I'd seen a movie directed by Danny Elfman's older brother, Richard Elfman. It was called The Forbidden Zone. I remember seeing it at the Venice Film Festival. I thought, wow, that's the kind of movie I want to do. Something that's so bizarre that you have to see it again because you want to re-experience it. And that's how I felt with Killer Klowns from Outer Space. Felt this is the kind of movie I've always wanted to do. Another favorite movie of mine was The 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with that film, but like I saw that as a kid.
Yep,
it was on television. I saw it on television. I saw it on a black and white television when I was a kid. And then I saw it at my grandma's house. I think it was on the $1 Million Theater where they would show movies like 5 or 6 times like once a day for like 2 weeks. And I saw it at my grandma's house because she had this big Philips color TV. I was just mesmerized by it. And I later, when it was re-released in theaters, I got to see it. And I guess you can call that a campy movie, a bizarre movie, something just completely imaginative. And that's what Killer Klowns had. It was like completely, imagination run wild. Kidder Brothers, their upbringing was such that they weren't going to just do a walk and talk dramedy. You know what I mean? They want to do something that's gonna someone that like as you're flipping channels, just about any scene of that movie, you're gonna like, wait a minute, let me flip back to that. What was that? Well, that's amazing. And now that it's on Netflix and playing like crazy, I hope they keep it for a while because people have been on social media. I've been seeing people just always posting that they're just watching it. It's kind of a stress reliever. So that's my experience with campy movies. Had I ever done any campy movies before Killer Klowns from Outer Space? And one thing I was doing. Oh gosh, I was. If you look at my IMDb, I was doing Little House on the Prairie. There was all kinds of TV series that I was doing additional music for. A lot of stuff for Disney. As a matter of fact, just before Killer Klowns from Outer Space, I did the Wonderful World Disney theme. Many permutations of it. So I did one of them, and I mean, it was almost quite by accident that I got to know the Kyoto, because I had a roommate who basically found an ad for someone that needed music for his movie trailer. Back then, people did movie trailers of their movie that was about to be produced. In other words, they did like a short version of their movie so that they can raise the financing to do the whole feature, right? So that was a thing back then, you know. I mean, it still is now, basically. I mean, you can do that. People do that to fund Indiegogo campaigns. But so there was a guy back. His name was Eric Young. He had done this movie in Washington, D.C. And, you know, I sent my tape in the mail with my resume, and he called me back. He liked what he heard, and I did his trailer. We became friends, and he called me one day. Says, you know, I work with a couple of people. Let me refer you to them. They're brothers. They do special effects. They're working on this really crazy movie. And I go, well, that's fine. Yeah, you may not want to do it. It has a weird title. I go, what's that? He said something like Invading Clowns from Space. You know, Killer Klowns Invade Earth or something. And I go, okay, I'm liking that. Yeah, and it's obviously a comedy, but it's also a horror movie, and it's also science fiction. And I go, okay, this is a dream come true. So I got a call from Steve Kyoto, and he, you know, I had an audition. He's hands off. I'm hands off with the audition. It's like we have to all agree that we like it, you know, before we're not going to play favorites or anything like that. I go, that's okay. So, you know, there's a bunch of people that showed up at a screening of the movie, and I was just completely mesmerized because I think the Killer Klowns theme song by the Dickies was put in the movie. And by the way, the Leonard Phillips, who wrote the song, never saw the movie, just heard the title, and that's what he wrote the song on. So wow. I thought that was a really cool song. And then the rest of the movie just had dialogue, hardly any sound effects, and it was actually super creepy and bizarre. Without all of that. Yeah. And I just said, I just got to see this movie. I mean, I just have to work on this movie. So I picked a scene that hit all the bases. What I auditioned with was where Mike and Debbie come into the circus tent. There's a chase inside the circus tent, and then they go out and they escape, and the clowns march on the town. Right there, that's like the cornerstone. You know, that defines the entire movie, basically, right there. So, and it goes through so many transitions that you know, and then I can establish the main Killer Clown March theme, which is what I wanted to do, and that's what got me. That's what got me the gig.
Awesome.
It's funny you brought that part up because I did want to mention that scene where the clowns march into the town and the way that song ties into that scene and makes it work so well. It's amazing.
Well, that song was written a long time before the movie, before I had ever seen the movie. I was playing in a band in high school, and we thought, you know, okay, we're playing Led Zeppelin, we're playing, you know, Kiss, we're playing Blue Oyster Cult, and all that kind of stuff. Let's do our own music. And so I came up with that theme, and my band thought it sounded too jazzy. And so when I saw the Killer Klowns, I go, I'm pulling out that thing I did for my band Crisis. That'll work perfect here. So
It really did.
Oh, absolutely.
Crisis is a good band name.
I think so, but it was spelled boring. It was spelled like just regular Crisis. It should have had a K and a Y.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe a Z.
Somehow work an X and a Z in there somewhere. This is before like bands like Lacuna Coil and, you know, real metal started coming out.
Well, I have to be honest with you, John. We had about a list of like 5 or 6 questions we were going to ask you, and you were able to answer all of them without us asking you. So,
you want to ask them in hindsight?
no, you covered it.
Yeah, okay.
No, yeah, that was amazing. So let's hop right into the house dissection then. The house was obviously Killer Klowns from Outer Space. The year was 2019. The location was the Shrek Theater. The first year that location has ever been used was 2015. And then the notable houses that's been in that space is like Krampus, Halloween 4. We like to kind of talk about the popularity, the wait times, the overall reception throughout the event. This one was definitely a cult favorite. It did have mixed receptions with some, but it was definitely a huge favorite. Jonathan, I know is your favorite house, right?
Yes, it is. It is my absolute favorite house of HHN29.
And then ads, TV spots, social media integration. The clowns, honestly, were used by Universal in many print ads and billboards, posters. They were pretty much integrated into the entire event, almost used as kind of like an icon. One of our favorite parts of HHN 29 overall was Marathon of Mayhem, and it was integrated in there. John, were you able to see the Lagoon Show Marathon of Mayhem?
Oh, yes, I was. And let me tell you, weeks before I had seen the high definition video that was, I believe, on YouTube, or it was, or there was a teaser on like one of the Universal sites, and I was blown away by that. But then seeing it in person, being surrounded by it, it was boy, the amount of work that went into that creativity and craftsmanship and technological genius that went into that was just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably my favorite nighttime spectacular in a theme park probably ever. It's amazing what they were able to put in.
Wow.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're probably biased as we're huge.
We're huge horror night nerds, but
it is
up
absolutely there for me. It's really far up there. So,
there's so much potential in that. I was thinking, how awesome would it be for, let's say, they pick a series of movies that they can do abbreviated, like 5-minute versions of a movie, but do it in that presentation. Where the backdrop is the water mist, and you could see whatever favorite movie like highlights from it or something like that.
Absolutely, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to call up Andy Garfield and pitch that to him, I'm sure he would appreciate that. That was the guy who he's big into theme parks and themed entertainment, and he's the guy who did Marathon of Mayhem.
Yeah, and well, speaking of which, there's is it you? I don't. You guys are looped into this more than I am. Is there and they were building something at Universal when I was there, and it's supposed to be I don't want to say a theme park, but an area of the park that has lots of live entertainment. Have you heard about that?
Nico, do you know what he's referring to?
At the actual Universal Studios park, or at the whole resort in general?
Maybe it's at the whole resort. I don't know, but it was something that was under construction that someone pointed out to me, and that's where all the concerts are going to be and stuff. That was there. That's why I heard, someone, and I don't even know who that is. I mean, it wasn't like a Universal person told me that. It was like someone I was having a conversation with, and there's going to be some sort of live entertainment thing.
Very interesting.
I don't know. That's all. I just happen to remember that just now.
I'll have to do some digging for that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, also we like to also talk about like the merch they released for the particular house. This one they had tons of it. So shirt, masks, glasses, you name it, they had it. Killer Klowns. John, did you purchase any of the merch?
Can I? Is this time for intimate reveals?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It always
I
is.
did buy a whole bunch of the candy bars.
Oh,
yes.
cool.
Yeah.
I have not eaten the candy bars though. I did do a taste test on video. I haven't released it yet. I mean, barely was able to shoot it. It was super easy, barely an inconvenience. You probably get that.
I
reference.
get that. Yes.
Okay. Are you familiar? You're familiar with James and Chelsea, Dead Meat James?
Yes.
And myself and a friend of mine. Her name is Colleen Miller. Excuse me, Colleen Miller.
We'll edit that for you.
We did a taste test of it.
Mm-hmm.
And to kind of describe what it tastes like. So I did get that. I got a bunch of that. I did get some pins that I bought a bunch of pins and I gave them away, and I also gave them as like incentives, like, when you buy my CD, I'll this pin comes with it,
Oh, that's cool.
And I think I did buy some shorties that Universal made, which are very different than the Funko Pops.
Yeah,
but really equally as cool. I did get some of those and gave them away as gifts, and I have a bunch of them here in my studio that I don't know what I'm going to do with them at some point. Give them away as gifts or something like that, or what I wanted to do. Okay, and if I know I'm going to say this, and then someone's going to do it, right? All I'm saying, if someone goes and does it, let me edit the music in for you. I want to get the Funko Pops and the other characters and do like little recreations of the movie, but with stop motion animation using the Funko Pops.
That'd be so cool.
But I don't have that skill. I don't have, even though I've worked on there's a movie I worked on called The Wizard of Speed and Time that has some of the most brilliant, non-CGI stop motion in it. And I know those techniques. I just don't have 2 lifetimes to do it in.
Duff, I think we need to branch into YouTube, and definitely that needs to be our first video. We need to.
Yeah,
Nico, you got that written down?
All right, got that written down.
Okay,
that's added to the list.
So we're going to the merch here in Hollywood. About like every other week, I would hang out. I would just announce that afternoon, I'll see you guys. I'm going to be at the entrance of the scare zone that we had, not scare zone, excuse me, the house that we had here, and just to meet and greet with people, just talk to people. And friends of mine would come with me, so we would just hang out and talk, and then people would come out to me. I gave out little mini posters and stuff like that. And then one day, one of the supervisors approached me.
Oh no!
I've noticed you've been here greeting with fans and things like that. And I go, yes, I have. And I thought, oh gosh, because I'm giving away these little cards. Maybe there's that's like a no. It's like you wouldn't go to a Denny's and order pizza from another restaurant and have it delivered, right? There's actual laws. That's actual vendor law. That you can get a serious fine for that. Mm-hmm. And they go, no, this is great. If you want anytime you and your friends want to go into the house, we'll let you guys in. I go, oh, that's wonderful. And then so I go, so I'm okay here. She said, oh no, you're fantastic. This is great. We're at capacity. And so that was kind of cool. And so then they invited me to meet with the cast before they went on, mm-hmm. And that was a lot of fun. I got to address them and congratulate them for their hard work, because it's not easy doing that. And I said, let me tell you, I feel like I'm in the presence of very brave people. For you to have to listen to my music over and over and over again every night for all these weeks, you have iron ears, and so apparently they're not offended by hearing the music over and over again, because it means they have a job. So and then I went now going back to merch, right? I do have a number of the original t-shirts that they sold that that sometimes I wear for interviews and things like that. I would love it. I'd love to get a really cool motorcycle jacket that has Killer Klown stuff on.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Oh, that'd be perfect.
I might have to get someone to do it for me. But so I was at the shop once buying, loading up on candy bars because they sell out pretty quick. And there was someone there that had bought something, and I was in line with them. I says, if you want me to sign that thing, I can sign it over here. It was like a little poster. And they go, oh, sure. Yeah. You don't mind doing that? Yeah. So I signed it, and then someone else asked me, and then someone else. So I was in the back for 2 hours signing stuff. So the manager of the gift shop says, I got to tell you, we're out of inventory of all these types of things. I was signing people's glasses. They have like tumblers and all that sort of stuff. And so I was signing all that stuff. I mean, we're sold out, and we still have 2 more hours to go before the park closes. So that was kind of fun. So that's my merch.
That's a great story.
Spin on the merch there. Now, did I get a cut of any of it? Of course not. And then I was later. I was, when I was in, this was really great. When I was at Universal and they found I was going to be there, the company that prepares and creates all the merch, they invited me to the creative people, the people that actually put together like the little shorty, the pin, the posters, all the designs that were made, the people that were helped design some of the key figures like the Clownzilla and all that. I got to meet them. It was like there's this like conference room I went in, and I was like talking to other creative people, and everyone went around and talked about their background, how they got to where they were, and I was like the guest speaker. It was really a great honor to be there. That was at Universal Orlando's creative headquarters where they make everything. That was really awesome to be invited to that.
Wow. Oh, wow. That sounds like a crazy experience.
Yeah, it was. There's some pictures on my Instagram with me with the I guess they're called cast members. I don't think so. I think that's what they do at Disney.
Team members, yeah.
Team members. There you go. Disney is cast members.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. All right.
Of which.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
We won't tell. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Some of us used to be are also.
Oh, good.
And
we don't talk about it usually.
However,
that's for the other.
Well, it's funny. One time I thought it would be really funny to. I was here in Burbank. I took a picture of myself in front of Team Disney, and a selfie. I said, when you get called to the head office, you either did something very good or something very bad. And they made me take that down. So can you take that down? That's not right. Okay.
Daddy Iger doesn't like this.
Actually, he probably would have liked it.
Yeah. Oh, it was good. As he rubs his cardigan.
All right. So we like to go over the pre-event history before the house. Obviously, Killer Klowns from Outer Space was used prior year as a very popular scare zone at HHN28, which immediately started speculation and rumors that a house was coming in the near future. And then on July 25th, 2019, Universal put out a press release along with a teaser video that said there's a reason why people are afraid of clowns, and it had the flying popcorn, pies, balloon animals, and it ends with Shorty basically throwing a pie right at the camera.
Right.
And that's how we knew Killer Klowns was official. It was coming this year to both Hollywood and Orlando.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
So you want to know what I know about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I could just tell you, the creative director out here, John Murdy, very brilliant guy. They don't. Nothing happens by accident. So here, people from they're from a certain parking lot, you can look down at a certain street and see, like, the Killer Klown tent that they were
Mhm.
making, and that was purposely left. I can say this now. It was purposely left exposed so people would spread rumors that there's got to be a Killer Klowns house.
Oh,
To
definitely.
kind of build up to that. And I gotta tell you, let me give credit. Let me give some props out to the Kyoto brothers, because it's from their mind that all this imagery came from.
Absolutely.
And they were so, it's funny when we were all together at the red carpet event. They were just like little kids, junior high school guys that you could see the little boys, the creative little boys in them, that creative spirit come out at them. They were just so thrilled and so happy to see something that they put so much work and passion into initially years and years ago is like really coming to great attention, and they also appreciate all this manifestation of the Killer Clown brand.
I can't even imagine how surreal that must be, like you said, at the red carpet event, and then for such a fandom to come from it and it to be recreated as houses and mazes.
Yeah.
I honestly can't fathom what that would feel like to have something
and have
out
it
of my
be
mind.
part of American culture,
Right?
As something that's very particular in with America, American cinema. It's very very unique. And does it feel surreal to me? I don't know. Since I created it, I helped in the creation of the music aspect of the film. And I've lived with it all these years, and having like I said, I feel like I have an extended family. I can't say it feels surreal. I just feel very grateful. I'm very, very, very happy to point to it. And it's so, I'll let you in on a little secret. My daughters, who were my eldest is 20 and 17, they had never, ever, ever seen Killer Klowns from Outer Space until 2.5 years ago. Like 6 months before my concert.
Wow.
Yeah. They said, Dad, they made an announcement. Dad, we want to see Killer Klowns from Outer Space. And I go, really? Okay. It's not a prerequisite of the family of the Massari sisters to have seen Killer Klowns. They've seen other movies I worked on. There's a movie I did that never got released called Veritas Prince of Truth, which is actually it would have been a great movie to release. There's some movies, and any one of you in your audience, if you're planning on getting into the movie industry, there are movies that have existed that will never, ever, ever see the light of day except for those people that worked on it. For whatever reason, some movies just can't get released legally. You can bootleg them for sure, but I worked on this movie that was so much fun. It was about a comic book character that comes into human. Actually, it was very biblical in its story model. This a comic book hero has to come to life because there's only one fan that truly believes, and that fan has to come back with him into the comic book world to fight this particular foe. And my kids had seen that probably 100 times because I had, after I finished it, I got a video and they just couldn't stop watching it. They just loved it. But Killer Klowns from Outer Space, never seen it until about 6 months before my live concert. And I didn't really watch it with them because I had just gotten a new bass guitar. And I was kind of breaking it in, and I was off in the corner somewhere in the room, and they were just looking. I thought they would be bored after 5 seconds. They were so completely thrilled with it. They said, "Dad, this is so bizarre. I can't believe you did this movie." And they even said, "I can't believe," and they were there with their friends. They go, "I can't believe that we haven't seen this movie yet. This is so bizarre." And so, now that it's on Netflix, they keep saying, "Oh, Dad, I just want to let you know, all our friends keep saying they keep watching Killer Klowns on Netflix." Like, "Oh, that's great. That's fantastic." But anyways, so I don't know if I ran off on too much of a tangent for you guys.
Nope.
But
No, that's great.
Not at all.
It's exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah. So and no, as far as like the Kyoto brothers, like when they go to big events, they'll bring their kids there, and their kids are also older. They're in their 20s, some are in their late 20s, and it's like a big family affair. They're all they realize that their lives are part of the quality of their lives is owed to Killer Klowns from Outer Space.
I think everyone can kind of say that in a way,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I definitely Jonathan, who has a great story about it, but we don't need to go over it again because we did that in a previous. I'll listen back to it.
It is a great story.
As a kid, I definitely remember the VHS cover just haunting me in the Blockbuster everywhere I went. That's all I remember is just seeing that cover and just being terrified of it. That's my experience as a child of Killer Klowns.
All right, so let's get into the actual house breakdown then.
Okay.
The fun stuff. Before you even get into the queue itself, you will find the ice cream truck that basically works as a meet and greet, where you'd find both Shorty and Slim. It kind of brought you back to HHN28 and the scare zone we had. It had that kind of fun party vibe to it that everyone just really loved about the scare zone the previous year. Going into the actual queue, it's the standard Shrek Theater queue, all the switchbacks. Not much else. Of course, they do have the video screens where they play old Horror Nights videos, as you'd always find in the Shrek Theater queue. There's no real outside or inside facade at the Orlando house, so you're just walking straight into the first room, where I think we're going to let Jonathan kind of take over a little bit.
Thank you. Okay, so entering the house, the first thing you encounter is red and yellow sif coming from the ceilings, and you sort of walk through that. And then when you're inside the actual room, you get the smell of popcorn, and it's an inviting smell, letting you want to venture into the house. In the room itself, you see some haystacks, and the entire room was covered in yellow and red tent material to make it look like it was the circus tent from the movie. Guests could see silhouettes of Jumbo the Clown waving at the farmer, whose voice could be heard in the distance, saying his classic lines like, "Where's my Pooh Bear?" I know, it was a wonderful impression.
That was an excellent impression.
It was great.
Thank you.
Could you do it one more time? With feeling this time.
Okay. Where's my Pooh Bear?
Oh,
once again, projecting.
There you go. Good job.
I'm not an actor. But,
once again, with tears in your eyes.
I gotta really
tears the first time.
I gotta believe I am the farmer. Another shadow that popped up was Shorty, who was throwing punches, and you could hear in the background, "What are you gonna do? Knock my block off?" And then he does.
Man who gets block knocked off.
Exactly. And I think this not really facade, it's the first room, but I sort of count it as an inside facade-ish for the Shrek Theater, since the Shrek Theater isn't really known for having facades.
Right.
And I think it's just so inviting and letting the guests know who have no idea what Killer Klowns from Outer Space is, that this is going to be a fun house. It's going to be an enjoyable house with the music and the inviting smell and just the fun little shadows on the wall. But also, these are clowns, so they're obviously going to be a little bit scary. So it's just setting the overall theme for guests to understand what this property is and what they are about to experience. And the music playing in this room is the Shadow Show. Do you have any stories about this song?
Okay, well, there's two. There are two that are scenes are kind of connected, in their concept, visually and with their music. You have there's at the very beginning. There's in a park. There's like this gazebo where there's like a Punch and Judy show going on, and there's a certain kind of music going there. It's kind of like influenced and inspired by the Warner Brothers cartoons, and it's called the Galactic Globe Theater, which appears again toward the end when, well, I guess 3/4 the way through the movie, where there's a at that bus stop where I think it's Slim comes up and does this kind of a shadow puppet show. And so we bring back that theme that was used at the earlier part of the movie, and that again develops, into like generic like monster music, and goes through a variety of changes, because there's a girl doing there's a silhouette of a belly dancer, and then there's the with these fumbling fingers makes a Washington crossing the Potomac, and so the music changes with all of that, and so, and then we come to some monster dinosaur music where everyone gets eaten. So anyways, those two parts are like brought together thematically and conceptually.
So it makes sense why the next room we walk into is actually that shadow show. We walk in room 2 is we walk into an alley in Crescent Cove, where the first thing guests can see, if you're looking straight out, is this giant shadow show happening on the wall. On your left, Shorty pops out of his boo hole and in his little boxing glove and punches a little bit, followed by the audio, "What are you gonna do? Knock my block off?" Shortly followed by the decapitated corpse of Slug, who's with his head in a nearby trash can. And on the right, you could also see a trash can moving back and forth with legs dangling out. And that's another little scare because it moves and there's a big light and some sound. I think that's just such a clever room to introduce a lot of elements of the movie all sort of at once. It's very compact, and also let us know, this is what this house is going to be. It's going to be silly with the shadow puppet. It's going to be scary with the shorty, and it's going to be scary with the shorty popping out and the garbage can.
Awesome. So heading into room 3, there is a kind of a transition, and you are scared by Slim the Clown popping out of a boo hole. Ahead of them, guests could start to see like the clown puppet show that John was talking about earlier. And then all of a sudden, Spiky the Clown jumps out from behind the theater. And then it sounds like the music cue is kind of Knock Your Block Off / Galactic Globe Theater mashup.
That would be correct.
And then moving on to the next room. After you enter the Crescent Grove Police Station, you'll enter and see Officer Mooney being used as a ventriloquy dummy by Jumbo the Clown, flashing red and blue lights. Going around the right-hand corner, Frank the Clown was found running in through the sliding door. And then to your left, Fatso the Clown is pretending to kind of give the guests like a heart box before popcorn clowns jump out of the box. And in the doorway, Bimbo the Clown is kind of holding a stack of pizza boxes as Shorty the Clown pops up from inside them.
And I think this is one of the rooms where we're so grateful to have John in this episode, because we were trying to figure out the music in the background, and the closest we could come up with, that's the entrance of the march. But John, you actually told us this is a track simply called Officer Mooney, which makes a ton of sense. So we should have caught on to that before.
Right. And there's also not too long after that, there's one called The Inevitable, which is kind of like that was like one scene. When I did the original movie, by the way, when I worked on the movie, I was trying to get the Kyoto brothers to come to the recording sessions, and it was very difficult. And when they heard at the final dub, when they were finally putting everything together, sound effects and dialogue and music, that's the first time that they heard that cue called The Inevitable, which is when the clowns have, there's that parade where they're vacuuming people up and turning them into cotton candy. Cocoons, and they go, "Oh my goodness, that was like the toughest scene. We forgot." They really liked it, and because I kind of treated it as if it was like Nazi tanks rolling into Poland, kind of. And when we did that in the concert with a live orchestra, it even sounds better. So I'm sorry. I hope I didn't.
No,
that's perfect.
Break your rhythm there.
No, perfect.
When you talk, I get to nerd out about it. So take it away.
Can I add something about this room too?
Yeah, go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, of course.
one of my favorite parts about this room is actually the sound design, where it seems like Mike is knocking on the door, calling for Debbie, and that just induces a sense of fear in the guest itself, saying, "Oh wait, this is urgent. These clowns are trying to get us now. This isn't fun and games anymore." It's sort of once you hit Officer Mooney, it's sort of the switch from, "Oh, this is pretty silly and fun," to, "Oh wait, they're trying to get us."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is definitely a scene where the tempo starts to change a little bit, where I feel like the others you were kind of walking through and it's just kind of fun atmosphere, and now it's kind of like, oh, this is serious.
Absolutely. It's a very smart change to amp up the house. It's very smart to start it light and then just keep growing and growing and growing until the eventual end.
And as you say, it does keep growing as we go into this next little hallway, which is basically pitch black. And you hear the sound of pies being thrown around, and you feel this by the air cannons smacking against you, which, as Nico would say, will not happen this year.
No. There's a lot of things in this house that won't happen this year.
Yeah. And then, as we were talking about before, we thought the last room had the Killer Clown March. Turns out it's in this room. So you'd start hearing that build up a little bit as you emerge outside of that hallway and see a funhouse. It's a large facade of a clown's face where you kind of enter through the mouth. It had the title Crazy House above it. To your right, you'll find a security guard who's been a bit melted, and he's covered in pies with a cherry on the top. And as you're looking at him, out of the left, boo hole pops Bibbo the Clown as like the main scare of that room.
Perfect. All right, so room 6. Now we are officially entering the funhouse. And the first thing that happens to us is that on our right, Shorty the Clown, who is elevated, it's a scare, and he tries to hit us with his boxing gloves. And then walking through these tight hallways, Rudy the Clown then attacks next to a clown firefighter pole. And I have a tiny little funny story revolving this, is that when I was in the house the first time, since my brother was still a little scared, and I don't know what was happening behind the guests behind us, they managed to push me almost across the rope into the pole. And so a member had to drag me out and help me and walk me through the house. So that was fun.
That happened to us a few times in Universal Monsters, unrelated, but it happens to all of us.
It does.
All right, and then moving on, you come up a very long hallway. This starts with 2 dropping panels. They reveal the faces, or static faces, of Jumbo and Fatso. Across from that, there's sliding doors that would reveal a static Crinkles the Clown. And then you'd also get a final scare of that area with Slam the Clown. He jumps out at the guests. Further down, you find 3 guest-activated triggers, which were just red buttons. Each of those do make a honking sound. And as John mentioned earlier, the inevitable plays a part in this house in this very room.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Then we're going to lead you into the next room. It's kind of opening up to the end of the hall. You encountered two Rosebud of the Clown Girls would jump out. Next to the second one, a guest would see a static Daisy the Clown Girl with kind of like growing breasts, like alien boobs, I guess the best way to put it.
One of the more interesting things I've seen in a Horror Nights house.
Right? A little bit of the HHN hot house, like we like to call it. Just a little bit, just a tad of the sexiness coming into this.
Just a wee bit.
All right, so now we move on to the next room. And this is a transition hallway, and you can find 3 more red buttons, which were all guest-activated triggers. And each of them that you press sprayed the guest with water. So what people like to do is to press the button just at the right moment where they are past it, so it gets the person behind them, which is always fun. And then this led into an expansive open room where you'd be facing this giant, just fantastic Clownzilla puppet. You can see the strings attached to him just like the movie, and he was coming right at you. He was roaring. He was completely in motion. It was so breathtaking to watch. And you could see the Rich Terenzi brother on the side warning us, but also watching it in awe, almost the same way we are, as we're all just so impressed by this massive figure.
Mm.
And the music in it was the final clownfrontation.
Which John had to correct me. It's clownfrontation, not confrontation with a K.
Yes.
Yeah, and you know when I delivered the music cue sheet, they thought, "Did you spell that wrong?" No, I wanted to have it. No, it's a joke.
Want to have some
It's in the
fun
spirit
here.
of the thing. So yeah, that was very impressive. That Clownzilla, that was so awesome. I'm just really sad that I didn't win the raffle to take him home.
The raffle?
Because I don't know. Did you guys run into that guy at outside that was collecting like for $75? Yeah, for $75 you get a raffle ticket, and he says, this since you just pay $75, you get a raffle ticket, and we're going to raffle it off at the last day, and you'll be able to to take Clownzilla home. And so so I didn't get it. So I don't know if you guys did. You guys run into that?
Yeah, no, never saw him. That's strange.
He had he had a top hat, and he had this like gold chain. He was dressed like in a tuxedo kind of thing. So
interesting dress for a team member, I'd say.
Yeah.
But he was like in a corner, like in a shady part, like as you're going down the alley to go to the next attraction. It was like he would like come out of this. He would just only pick certain people, not everyone. So I was lucky enough to be one of the people that he came out of the shadows. And
did he have a curly mustache by chance?
So you've seen him.
Just kidding.
So I told that story to Michael Aiello, and his jaw dropped, and he goes, "Who in the world would that have been?" He actually thought I did it. So, but he refused to tell me what happened to that Clownzilla. That would be the coolest thing to have.
I don't know where I'd put it, but I would love it.
Yeah, I know some people that have warehouses. They collect stuff. Cars, and there's a composer agent. His name is Richard Kraft, and he has a warehouse. I think he auctioned it off at a fundraiser, but he actually had like the original Jumbo for the Jumbo ride at Disneyland. When they remodeled it, he managed to pick up, and I think he had one. He has. You name it, he has it. Like from Disney.
He had a Skyway bucket. He had a People Mover car.
Yeah,
he had a great gallery. I think 2 years ago.
Oh, was that his?
Called like that's from Disneyland.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think he auctioned most of it off for a charitable cause.
That's amazing.
Oh, wow.
That is a lot of money he was sitting on there.
Oh yeah.
So I'm wondering if he has the Clownzilla.
It sounds like he's a top contender.
Yeah.
I think he might have paid more than $75.
I think so.
That's fine.
Add a few zeros.
He can afford. He's a Club 33 member. He can afford it.
And then, before we move on from the Clownzilla puppet, one quick hot take. There were 2 great puppets last year. Clownzilla was the better one. Thank you. Moving on.
I don't know about that.
I said moving on. Thank you. Let me have it. All right. So after that, being just struck in awe by the Clownzilla puppet, you will walk underneath him, and you're going to enter another hallway. You get attacked by Crinkles on your left, and then on your right, there's a giant Clownzilla head that pops in and out, puppet style, which wasn't always active. Sometimes he was sitting there, sometimes he wasn't there at all. But when he came out and was jumping back and forth, that was a fantastic little scare.
Absolutely.
This led to an even longer hallway, this one made of cotton candy. This, like the rest of the house, used strobe lights, but this room specifically was so heavy. The cotton candy just lit up with the strobe so well. It was such a cool room visually. And as you're walking through, there's the popcorn clowns that jump out from holes in the cotton candy walls.
Which leads you to kind of the final room of the house. And like most finale rooms, this one is amazing as well. This gets to the kind of iconic, you are now in the spaceship and you're in the cotton candy room. You've got the cotton candies kind of all around you. And then you've got the popcorn making machine. And then also in the room is basically just a bunch of the killer clowns. You got Rudy, you got Slam, you got Frank. And then you just kind of continue down with them all scaring you. And then before you're leaving the house, you get one of the kind of that final scare that they love to do. You get one of the brothers, I believe it's Paul, jumps out behind a black curtain.
That was my absolute favorite scare of the house. It always got me.
And then, of course, this room had the Dickies Killer Klowns.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think it was the newer recording of the Dickies.
Right, the remaster.
I'm not 100% sure, but it sounded pretty. I'm 90% sure it was the newer recording that they created.
Well, I won't take the 10%.
It definitely sounded like it. That room was just such a perfect finale for the type of house it was, for being a mixture of silly and fun with the song playing in the background, with all, and also scary with the multiple amounts of clowns, some static, some not, that could just pop out any moment, and you could not tell which one was real or not. They were all so realistic.
Yeah, agreed. They do a lot of rooms of that style where you have one or a couple actual scare actors surrounded by static props. And this one was one of the best at actually tricking you.
Absolutely.
Jinx. So, John, I have a question to ask you, and it might be a little controversial.
Okay.
So you've
all right.
So you've been, it's not that bad. So you've been to both coasts regarding this house,
right?
Correct? So yes. I'm wondering, which house did you like better, Orlando's or Hollywood's?
Oh, I have only one definitive question for that, and is that I liked both.
That's a good answer.
Hey,
that's fair. That's fair.
I liked both. They're both very different in different ways.
Definitely. And
I just like, to be able to see the different takes that people had on it. Because I was under the impression that like there is like one design, and that design is replicated at both. But I didn't know that everyone has their specific creative teams, and they get to freely express their exercise their creativity. I just that was very refreshing. I mean, because when you think about it, how boring would it be if you were to go to both and they were exactly the same? Yeah,
that'd be incredibly boring.
And I think that's something most people don't know, is that Orlando and Hollywood, even though they share a lot of the properties, have completely separate teams working on these who pretty much don't work together at all. So they're completely doing their own thing. So like you said, if you're traveling to both coasts, you're going to get a different experience, even with the same property.
Completely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And you could there's a lot of pride that goes in it. The people that create it, they have just so much. They have just so much creative energy invested in it. You can see it.
Absolutely.
In their work.
Definitely.
All right.
Horror Nights, really. With all the houses, all the scare zones, it just screams creativity everywhere you go.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. So one thing we like to do with these house dissections is we kind of like to wrap it up with almost kind of like a review, or like we give it a score. And we kind of broke it down into kind of different factors. The first one is going to be the scary scale, and then we kind of discuss it from a scale of 1 to 10. What do you guys think? How scary was this house?
And then, John, before we move on, I must tell you, low score doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
Okay.
Maybe this one factor was lower, but that's fine. And even if it ends up with all high scores, maybe our final kind of rating will be really low. So these are just kind of individual pieces. How do we feel about it?
Right. Absolutely. So yeah, how scary do we think this one was? We can have an open discussion a little bit.
Definitely on the lower end. Four. Maybe.
I think maybe a little more for my experience, because I did have, from the story I told before, I did have that one-on-one experience with all the clowns. So they all kind of came at me, and there are a couple scares that always got me, like the puppet one. For some reason, I knew where he was coming from, but yet he always like jumped out at me in a way that I just freaked out. And that last scene was just, in all scenes like that with static figures and scare actors are inherently scary no matter what it is. And I think the most creative scares is with Officer Mooney in that one little area where he's in his office, and he looked at me straight in the eyes, held his arms out, and literally he was this close. He was so close to touching me, and I jumped back. Yeah. I was not expecting that from him. So I think I definitely give it a 5 from my experience.
Yeah,
okay.
This is really going to rely, I would say, on how scary you find clowns. I know some people who find clowns are so scared of clowns. This is really high up for them.
It could be a 10 for them.
It could be a 10 for them. I would say most people who don't necessarily have a phobia of clowns, I would say it's probably a mid-range. It was kind of went a little bit more on the fun side than the scary side. But I mean, I'm on the record that a house does not have to be 100% scary. I think fun and immersive really come first. I'm not going to go through something if I'm not having fun, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to split down the middle, 4.5?
Yeah, sure.
I would say so. Yeah.
All right, next one, we have the immersive scale. This one I like to explain is when you were going through it for those few, like I would say like this house is about 4 to 5 minutes long. For those 4 to 5 minutes long, how well does it transport you from Halloween Horror Nights at a theme park in Orlando or Hollywood to the whatever world is trying to paint? So how immersive are you in those minutes? What do you guys think?
Pretty high, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. It uses a lot of real cool technology and music. I would definitely put it on the higher end as well. A lot of really cool things.
7, 8 probably.
Yeah, I think so. What do you think, Jonathan and John?
It for me, I'm sorry, I know I'm going first. For me, I think the house in the beginning, even though it had scenes straight out of the movie, the very quick transitions between each scene sort of took me out of it because it didn't feel like I was walking from one area to another. It felt like I was just teleporting from each scene of the movie. But by the time you get to the end and you're in the fun house, it is so cohesive. It is insane the way the creators were able to take the movie's version of the fun house and sort of twist it into their own vision while also staying true to the movie. Made it so immersive, and there was no area that wasn't colorful in a way that made you think I am inside of that made you not think I am inside of this fun house. So right. I absolutely think it is on the high scale because of the ending scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I would say I would put it on the high end, and for this one reason, that both places, Hollywood and Orlando, you could, let's say you did not see the movie, and you would say, gosh, this was so bizarre. I can't even figure this out yet, but I have to see the movie. And then it would all come to you. You know what I mean? Then it would all make sense. So, and if you already have seen the movie, it's like reliving, portions of the movie. It's like being inside the movie. That's all.
Right, absolutely.
That may sound really obvious.
No,
but
that makes
that's
perfect
exactly
sense.
What the scale is, though. That's
exactly 100%.
What you described is a high rating for it.
Yeah. Right.
Because I would have to say I don't think it's that immersive. I also never saw I still haven't seen Killer Klowns from Outer Space.
He's coming from a very interesting perspective where this was actually Nico's very first time at Halloween Horror Nights, so he really doesn't have any basis on other houses, as well as he's never seen the movie. So he has a very and with that, we love unique viewpoints because that's kind of what we're looking for. Everyone that comes from a different perspective on the show.
Yeah, I don't think it was that immersive, you guys, especially compared to what else I saw that evening. No, this is the least immersive of them all. But that's just my opinion because, once again, I probably was not familiar with the IP as well.
It's tough to feel too immersed when you don't know the IP.
Well, a wise man once said, well, that's just your opinion, man.
All right, so what are we going to go with here?
Let's do I think when most of us agreed it was on the higher end. Let's do like a 7.5.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm the outlier. I'm definitely the outlier on this.
All right, let's moving on to the fun factor. This is basically how fun is it? Like when you think this is the one more about after you're outside of the house. Do you like, man, I need to go back in that house again? That was so much fun. Basically, kind of the replayability factor. Just how fun is it? How
I'm going to start off by saying Nico's number does not count here because we know it's going to be very low. So goodbye, Nico.
Yeah, Nico. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to abstain.
Sure, great.
Again, I'd call it right around immersiveness, 7-8 range for me.
I agree. Very, very fun. One of the more. I mean, all the houses are fun this year. There was really not a terrible house of the bunch this year. That happens from time to time. There is one kind of stinker, but this year there was not. There was not one bad one of the bunch. And I know, Duff, you disagree, but
I think there's one bad one in a bunch.
I don't.
I do too.
What are we? Stranger Things? Is that what?
For me, yes, correct.
Yeah.
For me, no. Actually, do you want?
Oh, really? Yeah. Go ahead, real quick.
Honestly, I thought Us was the worst house.
Us? Yeah. See, I liked Us.
Oh, man.
For
Mike's gonna
what it
fight
was.
you.
Yeah, I really liked for what it was for transporting you into the movie and making you feel like you're in the movie. I think it did a really good job.
I think the thing is, I didn't really enjoy the movie because I'm very analytical, and when you really think into that movie, it doesn't make any sense. But I mean, the music score and the design, especially if the rumors are true that you had to whip this up sort of at the last minute, was unbelievable. But I got really no scares from it, and even though scares aren't my top priority, I walk into a house, even Killer Klowns, I got scares. This house, I went in it twice or 3 times. I've got nothing all my runs, and it just sort of ruined the experience for me. Well, I loved Red walking around with her scissor, in a back and forth motion in the living room and in the facility there underground. But I get that was trying to give the creepy vibe, but it kind of looked really silly, especially when in the underground there was just a staff member watching her, just like pointing to the guests to move the right direction. So it completely took you out of that experience, which I think they have to do. But in that specific scene, it was supposed to be you're just focusing on Red. It's like, no, you're focusing on Red. The plushed bunnies on the floor were just not done right. I get they can't really have real animals, but when they show in the commercials that there's going to be bunnies, I expect them to maybe have screens or cages that are moving or something like Dead Exposure Patient Zero, like the monkeys were. But no, they just have some stuffed rabbits on the floor and like, here you go. But just overall, I'm going on a tangent, but just overall, I didn't find it that scary, and I didn't really like the movie. So that's definitely a reason why I did not like the house.
You're definitely not alone, but yeah, go ahead, Duff.
I was going to say, I can only imagine you are fuming right now.
I loved it. I mean, I'm on the record. If you want to hear what I think about it, you can go back to listen to one of the first 5 episodes of the show. But the fun factor, what are we thinking? Pretty high up, like around an 8?
I think 8's good.
If you ask for my opinion, of course, I mean, I don't think it's a surprise it would be a 10, being that it would be the house. It was the house that I did the most, that I made sure to hit the most, because the clowns were just so interactive with me. Even though they were in their little boo holes, they always waved or, did something to let you know that they were, they weren't just actors popping out and going boo. They were the characters themselves. And just with my brother and his love for it, I always had a fun time in that house. And I can't imagine a house that year that I had more fun in. So I think it's definitely a 10 for me, but of course I am biased because of my experiences.
And what about you, John? What do you think?
Well, for me, the whole thing, the experience for me is the reaction of the people and the whole vibe and spirit of it. I mean, for me to criticize how they recreated the film, I feel almost ridiculous in doing that. Waiting in line, the anticipation to go in, would be nothing without the experience of the audience that was in there and kind of like the energy that they have. So, and that goes for both both Orlando and Hollywood. I don't know if any of you had seen the Hollywood one, except for YouTube.
Except for YouTube.
So being there in person is a much different experience than being there, virtually, because you just get the vibe of all the people in front of you that are all around you. So that's my take on it. You know, it was an audience experience. You know,
oh definitely.
Oh yeah.
So we think general consensus around an 8.
Perfect.
I would go for that. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And then the next one is kind of a silly one. Sometimes, not every year, but there is a year that we like to call the hot house. It kind of makes it kind of more of a PG-13 rated R event where they kind of lean into the curve of like having sexy characters in it. From a scale of 1 to 10, what do we think this one was? It the hotness factor? I would probably say it's not necessarily too high up on there.
Well, we'll be completely transparent about this. We were going to put it at a 0 until we thought about the growing breasts that occur in this house. And I think that the fact that they put the effort in to make that happen in the house, got to put it at least a 1, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
Because obviously the clowns themselves make up almost every scare actor in this house, and the sex appeal on the clowns is very, very low.
Unless that's your thing.
If everyone's agreed upon that one, we don't necessarily offer. Perfect. Second to last is going to be the gore factor. How gory is the house? So we're talking about blood and guts. Many of the houses in the past are definitely very, very gory. What do you guys think on this one?
Low.
I'm going to say low also. I'm chiming in very low.
Yeah, I would say probably like a 2. And then lastly, this is going to be the legacy prediction. Basically, in the HHN fandom, how much are we going to look back at this house and be like, man, you remember blank house? How much of a legacy is this house going to leave on the community?
So I'll say I think this house specifically will be kind of like mid-tier. I think Killer Klowns as a whole, if you included the Scare Zone from HHN28, would push this up to about like an 8.
8.5, 9 even. Yeah, people are going to remember
just
for sure
looking at this specific house, probably more like a 6. Because I think, honestly, the Scare Zone is going to overshadow it a bit.
I can see where you're coming from. Yeah, you're right though. Them together, people are definitely going to look back and be like, "Hey, remember the Killer Clown years of HHN?" And they're gonna kind of combine them together in their mind. What do you guys think? You are on this kind of the same page with that?
I think Clownzilla is going to leave an impact.
Oh yeah,
I think that'll probably be the largest impact. Probably not the rest of the house, but at least for me personally, I know Clownzilla will have an impact on me because that was probably my favorite part of the house, and I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, this one is obviously everyone has their own opinion about much how they like the house if they think they're going to think back on it. But as a general rule, we'll put it in like the higher tier-ish, like the 6.5, 7 range on Legacy.
Yeah,
everyone okay with that? Sure. Perfect. All right. Well, that basically wraps up the house dissection of the Killer Klowns from outer space. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me and nerding out on this house. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us. Once again, Jonathan is hung up on theme parts on Instagram. Thanks so much for joining us, Jonathan.
No problem. I loved it. I loved every minute of it, and I would love to be back whenever you guys want me.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
We'll have you back. Yeah, definitely call us and leave voicemails. We love your voicemails. So definitely leave those as often as you can, and we'll try to get you back on another show as soon as we can too. And then John, I really want to thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
You added so much to the show. This dissection wouldn't be the same without you. John.Massari on Instagram and John Massari on Twitter. Thanks so much for joining us, John.
Well, thank you for having me. You're a great bunch of guys, and I can't wait to get back out to Orlando again. Maybe we'll have a true in-person hang.
Awesome.
That'd be
Yeah, your
6
first
feet
beer
away
is on
from
us.
each other.
Absolutely.
First 5, 10, however many you want.
Many beers as you want.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
We'll be going to Pat O'Brien's and Margaritaville.
Before we go, I just want to let us know that we do have a voicemail line. Give us a call and leave your feedback on the show and what you want to talk about. This is if you have something you want to talk about, Killer Klowns from Outer Space, we will put it on the next end of the show. So that is 407-906-3405, and you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at HHN365. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the streets.